All right, there was a previous video where I went through working in Packet Tracer with the Network Academy course where I looked at like completion and assessment and all that stuff. The newer version of the course has some packet tracers that look different. So I figure I would talk about a couple of those, give you guys a head start on working in them. So here's one of the ones that looks different, 1.0.5, which basically walks you through how to use this physical mode. So mostly, so far, if you've been in my classes, we've worked in logical mode that looks like this. Well, physical mode looks more like you would see in the real world and is meant to help us get some of that experience that we are lacking due to the fact that we've not been able to be in the real world for some length of time. So this, like I said, this is assigned to you to complete for CNT 240 1.0.5. I'm just going to go through a few things. Obviously, I just switched to logical mode, back to logical mode, and then back to physical mode. When you're in physical mode, you can double click on these things to zoom in to get to where you want to look at stuff. Once you're in the wiring closet, if you control and use your mouse wheel, you can zoom in and out. So that might be helpful for you when you're trying to look at stuff. I also noticed that right now all these cables are just hanging. I tried to do something earlier where I couldn't tell which cable is which. If you do manage all cables, that makes them be more tidily managed. If you need to see where the cable's going, you can unmanage, so now you can see that it's going from this switch port to that router interface. You can also right click and do inspect front, and what that does is that gives you a bigger, cleaner view of the front if you were not zoomed in. We were still zoomed in, so let me zoom back out. Again, that's scroll and the mouse wheel to do that. You can use these slider bars on the side to look at stuff. So now if I inspect the front, it gives me a bigger view of the front. Sometimes you're going to drag devices into the rack. Like I think part of this we're supposed to do, put the backup router in place. So we want to drag the backup router over. If we can drag it over to the rack. That. So my resolution is not letting me drag it all the way. So I dragged it apparently to the table, and now I should be able to drag it from the table to the rack. So now I'll put it in the rack. Like I said, you're going to want to have to turn things on. So in this case, if we right click on it, we can inspect the front or inspect the rear. We'll inspect the rear, and then we'll turn it on. I'm pretty sure the instructions will probably have you connect some stuff. So if you want to connect, you grab the cable you want to connect. You can go over here to where you want to connect it to. I'll connect it to gig 00, and then did I grab the wrong cable? I'll just connect it to gig 000, and then you can connect the other end to some switch port somewhere, and you see the cable shows up. So that's the basic overview of working in physical mode with dragging the devices around. If you click on the device, like I just clicked on the backup router, that's how you can access the configuration mode. It seems like some of these had that disabled where it wants you to use a console cable. So if that's the case, you can use a console cable. You can connect it to the PC. Down here is the console port, and then find the console port on the router, which I guess is on the back. That's not what I wanted. Yeah, there's the console. So now we have the console connected from this PC. If you click on the PC and go to the desktop and go to the terminal, hit OK, now you can access the console that way. So this looks a little different than what we've worked with in Packet Tracer in the past, and it's good because it gives us some of that hands-on of actually connecting the cables from the router to the switch, which is something we've missed out on being in the remote world. So here's another one of the remote ones, and a couple of things. This one has a topology, an addressing table, and the objectives tasks down here. So these are 3 different tabs. So if you want to get rid of like some of these tabs so you can have more room to read the stuff, you can click down here where it says tabs and uncheck the ones you don't want to see. It also seems like you can pop these things out and move them around if you wanted to do that. I hit X and it went away. So if I wanted it back, I would go to the tabs and do topology and it come back. You drag it back over if you want to pop it back in. As far as this activity goes, all the equipment's on the side, so you'd have to drag it all where it needs to be. And the last thing I wanted to go over was sometimes I was working through some of these and it got to be kind of hard to manage looking at the information and working at the same time. So every one of these activities has the instructions also in PDF format. So you could open this in another tab or look at it on a tablet or a laptop or a different device, or maybe even print it on paper if you wanted to look at it while you're working through the activity. So that might make it easier for you to work instead of trying to manage reading in this small window while you're also trying to work in the pane. One other thing we'll go over, I talked about the check results in the other activity I went over. That was 291, I believe. So as you're working it might be a good idea to keep your eye on this completion percentage as you're working. So if you do something, enter a command that you think is supposed to be successfully completing a thing, like in this case it says assign class as a privileged exec encrypted password. If you run a command that you think should have done that, this completion percentage should go up. So if you hit enter on your command and the completion percentage did not go up, then that likely means that you did not run the right command. So let's just try this for a minute and see if what I'm telling you is true. So I drug the router over, I turned it on. Right, did you see that went up to 3%? So I did something correct, it went up to 3%. If you drag something over you think is correct and the percentage doesn't change, then that's not right. There's no access to the console here, so I need to actually get the PC, I guess, and use the serial port on the PC to configure the router. So again, I'm not going to go all the way through that because this already demonstrated what I wanted to demonstrate. As you work through these things, if the thing you did was correct, it should have went up. Sometimes there might be multi-step commands where you have to do multiple things and it might not go up until you do them all. But yeah, so that's a good way to keep track of if what you're doing is correct as you're working. If the percentage is going up, then you should be good. Yeah, so yeah, that's all I want to say, I guess, about this.